everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast and Merry Christmas. And we're very excited because we are here to talk about the last of the Thanksgiving Day weekend movies. We did it. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. And we're here to talk about the Holiday Touchdown and the Finish Line movies. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I am film critic Rachel Wagner, and Mary's here.
Hello.
And our friend Savannah Carlisle is here.
Hello.
And I particularly wanted to have you on, Savannah, because you have a history of being a sports reporter, of working in sports. You know sports. So I was
Yes,
like,
I
oh, I
am
want to have you on.
I'm a sports business reporter and I write about Hallmark movies for some outlets, but I write about sports business for other outlets. So I was super excited when Holiday Touchdown got announced because I knew I would get to write about it in both places.
Yeah, it's a combination of your two worlds.
Yes, it doesn't happen very
Convergence.
often, but this was exciting.
Yeah. Well, let's just dive in. Let's talk about it. So Holiday Touchdown, a Chiefs love story. This was the big marquee event for Hallmark this year, I would say. The biggest, most hyped movie of the year. And this was on the 30th. It stars Hunter King and Tyler Hines, directed by John Pooch and written by Julie Sherman Wolfe. And it's Alana is sure that her family's lifelong history as Kansas City Chiefs superfans makes them a frontrunner to win the team's Fan of the Year contest. Derek, director of fan engagement, is tasked with evaluating how Alana and her family stack up against the other two finalists. As the pair spends time together, it's clear there's a spark between them, but when her grandfather's vintage Chiefs good luck winter hat goes missing, Alana begins to doubt everything she believed about fate, destiny, and even questions her future with Derek, unless that is a little Christmas magic can throw a Hail Mary. So, overall, what did you think of this movie? What were your overall thoughts? What did you think, Mary?
So, fair upward. First off, a disclosure that my family are huge Chiefs fans. So
Mm.
that's why I was super happy to be able to come on this particular podcast recap episode. So I have to get that out of the way. I've
Is there
lived,
any reason like why you ended up being Chiefs
yes.
fans?
So I grew up all over the world, but my family kind of moved to Missouri and kind of stayed
Oh.
there. So my last years of high school were in kind of Northwest Missouri, but then all my younger siblings grew up there because I'm near the top of a big family. So around the Kansas City area, like the
Oh.
is where most of my siblings have settled. So I've lived in Utah for like 25 years, but I have siblings in sister that lives in Independence where this movie takes place. And then a brother in Olathe, Overland Park, Gladstone, Chillicothe, Hamilton. So they're all around the greater Kansas City area. And my boys just have my children, I have age 19 down to 8. They've just grown up loving the Chiefs, because we go see my family and I don't know, they just needed a team and they're like, why not mom's team?
Yeah.
And I was
You
like,
do pretty well in this contest then.
yeah. Oh, yes. And some of my brothers would do really, really well. They're huge fans. So all that being said, yeah, I'm biased in saying that I knew I was going to go into this movie loving it just for that reason. But I loved it even more because of all the charm it brought and this extended family that I just fell in love with and this cute romance and everything about it. So I can't say enough good
Yeah.
things about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what about you, Savannah? What were your overall thoughts about it?
So I was just really excited that this was not going to be a love story about one of the players on the team and that they chose somebody that worked for the team instead, because I've had a really hard time getting into the sports romance like book genre because writing about sports business is my day job and I have to interview
Mm.
athletes and coaches and it feels icky to me to then read a
Mm.
book where people are falling in love with the players because like that, I you see that happen every once in a while, but like it's also a little unprofessional in a lot of circumstances for me. So when they first announced this movie, before I saw what the synopsis was going to be, I was thinking it was going to be a Taylor and Travis sort of love story. And I'm so glad that that's not what it was. I enjoyed seeing a different kind of storyline.
Yeah. Well, and it was fun because they had one of those over on Lifetime. Christmas in the Spotlight it was called, that I think was actually pretty well done for that kind of fan fiction. And so it would have just been kind of the same thing. Like I kind of
Hmm.
glad that we got this and then we got that over there. Like and that feels like more appropriate for their branding as well. Uh, and and so I don't know. It worked out, I think, pretty perfectly.
Yeah. Although I have to say, I watched it with my husband, who has been a sports reporter most of his career. And as soon as they kissed in the movie, he was like, hey, now he can't be judging whether she's going to be fan of the year and kissing her. If I was one of the other
Yeah,
Oh,
a
participants,
little
he
biased.
was like,
yes.
yeah, he was like, that is a conflict of interest. The other participants should all pitch a fit about this. He can't just watch it and enjoy it like I can.
Well, I did say that in my notes. I'm like, wait a minute here.
Yeah, no, and my almost 17-year-old caught on that too because I watched it with all my children as well, and I was like, "What are your thoughts?" And he was like, "Wait a minute, I think the others would feel." And he's like, "What about poor Catrick? Does he get a kiss?" So,
Well, my thoughts are I am this is just not really my thing as far as like I'm not into football, not into the Chiefs, not into like but I think for what they had to work with, it was very entertaining. Like this is I think that for if you were gonna if you were gonna task somebody, which is what they did, say make a Hallmark movie out of a chief fan, like you're given these elements, make an entertaining Hallmark movie out of it. I think they did just about as good as they could do. Like it still wouldn't end up being like a favorite of mine just because I'm just not that into sports. But but I think they were very successful. It was entertaining. It was better because when I read the summary, I think I gave it like a sock in the preview because I was just like, a magic hat? Like what is this? But it was quite. I liked the fact that it was really a family story, and about this this family and their love for each other and how really the Chiefs in these tickets were they were symbolic of their love as a family, and that's not an easy needle to thread, but I think that they did it and they pulled it off, and I give Julie the most credit because I think this was probably a very very hard script to write, and she pulled it off.
I think it was pretty authentic to the fan experience, though. Like
Yeah.
in my family, we're bigger baseball fans than we are football. So when I was watching it, I was thinking about like we're all crazy Braves fans on my
hmm.
dad's side of the family. We have a group text that goes year round. Like even now, when it's not baseball season, we're talking about who we're going to lose, during the off season. Who
Hmm.
are we going to pick up? Like, what is next year going to be like? We're making our spring training plans already. And we definitely have that superstitious kind of stuff. Like I remember watching them in the postseason and they had a loss, and I decided the hat I had worn for that game I wasn't wearing for the next game. I was going to switch to a different Braves hat I had just to like get some different luck going. So I do think it was pretty authentic to the fan experience, and especially when you have a team that your multiple generations of your family follows like this. And it sounds
Yeah.
like Mary has a similar experience,
Oh,
and with the
yes.
Chiefs.
Yes, no, I completely agree. All of this rang really true, even if it looked over the top. I know a guy who has a pair of overalls he's never washed in like 30, 40 years that he wears to every football game because, yeah, my family, we've got, we must have multiple sports because we love the Utah Jazz, the BYU Cougars, and a little bit of, I used to really watch the Royals and the Cardinals for baseball, but yeah, so these things ring really true. We've got, all our lucky things that we do and everything that's like routine and tradition.
Hmm.
Um, so
Well,
yeah.
it's all about just like finding your tribe. It's fun to be part of something bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
Whatever it might be. Like there was a time in my life where I was really into Survivor, and I was involved with the podcasts. I was, supporting, fans of the podcast and analysis, and I made tons of friends just through the fact we all liked Survivor. It's just like the most random thing, but my original co-host for this podcast was I met through Amber. I met through we were both fans of Survivor, so like it doesn't take much sometimes to like form a bond with people and that
Mm-hmm.
you meet through whatever it is through your tribe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's like how
Exactly.
we all watch Hallmark movies too. You know,
Yeah.
I ended up writing a piece for Forbes, where I write about sports business about sort of the making of this movie and how they worked with the Chiefs. And I was able to talk to a senior vice president of programming at Hallmark, Samantha DePippo, and we were talking about this. And I remember her saying, like, you know, watching sports is very communal, and then it's something that you all talk about later, but Hallmark's the same way. Like, I watch a lot of Hallmark movies with my dad, and we're all on a podcast talking about a Hallmark movie. And so she was talking about how if you did sort of a Venn diagram of like sports fans and Hallmark fans and the traits that they share, like there's a lot of
Mm.
overlap. And then on top of that, there's overlap with like 50% of NFL fans are female. And she said up to 25% of Hallmark movie viewers are male. And so as they started lining things up, like you realize how much overlap you have in those audiences and in that experience of watching sports and watching Hallmark, and actually how similar those are. So I think they did a nice job of thinking about those things. And it's why they, you know, I think it's why this movie was sort of the cornerstone of their holiday season this year. And it's the first time they've done a partnership with a real team. It is, I asked
Yeah.
her about it because it is super hard to work with a real team or league and get the rights to use the
Oh,
marks and that sort of thing. And I asked her how big of a pain was it, because it's why you don't see them in movies or in books, and people make up these fake teams because it's so hard to work with them. And I'm a lawyer, so I get like the licensing side and how hard it is.
Mhm.
But she said that actually that the Chiefs in the NFL were fabulous to work with. And it sounds like they are planning to do more going forward. There was Christmas on Call where they worked with the Philadelphia Eagles already this season too. And it sounds like we can expect more NFL in the future. So for those
Yeah.
who liked this, I think you'll get more of it.
I mean,
oh,
they're
wow.
working with NFL Films actually, right? For it,
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Yes. And there's
Yeah.
another production company that was sort of formed as a joint venture between the NFL and a company called Skydance Media. And they have a division called Skydance Sports. And they're sort of focused on this kind of programming, like outside of just live sports. So it does
Uh-huh.
sound like this is a partnership we can expect to see continue. And they did so many cool like activations in Kansas City. I was really kind of jealous that I didn't get to be at some of those, including like Friday night at the game. They gave away
Mm-hmm.
the hats that you
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
in the movie, and Hallmark selling the hats, and they're selling the scarf, and there's a keepsake ornament. So they
Yeah.
did a lot of like tangible activations with this movie too.
Oh, it's a
Yeah.
win-win for them. Yeah, to do that
Yeah.
sort of thing.
I know our friend patron Becky, she was at the game. She got one of those hats. I saw her
Oh,
Oh,
on
very
social
fun.
media.
I'm
Well,
not a
Yeah.
the
Chiefs fan, but I want a hat. I
I
Yeah.
really want the
know.
ornament. I collect ornaments, so I'm going to order the ornament.
The other cool thing that happened at the Chiefs game on Friday was they also had some moments where they acknowledged this Light the World campaign from the
Oh, that's
Church of
cool.
Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. And the giving
Hmm.
machines opened this very weekend in Kansas City as well at Union Station, which is a big gathering spot for people. So the Bonner family
Oh,
sang the
that's
national
nice.
anthem, and they, did, which is a big choir family group from the church, and promoted Light the World and these giving machines where you go donate something for somebody else. It's like a vending machine, and you and they're in like 100 cities this year. So it was really, this whole weekend was really cool for Kansas City. We had this big attention on from this movie, and the Chiefs also, having this acknowledgement for this really cool worldwide campaign. And so I was really proud. And the other thing I thought too, like you were saying, Savannah, is this movie really did sports well. Like I've had my husband watch other sports movies with me from Lifetime or Hallmark or whatever, platform. And he's like, it doesn't ring quite true. But this
Yeah.
one, they were like, oh, wow. Yeah, this is the real thing. So
Oh yeah, we'll
That
get to it. But I made my husband watch the finish line too, and he had
me
just been to
too. Yeah.
Finland, so he has some
Oh,
thoughts on that as well.
oh.
awesome.
Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind the scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
Well, so it starts out with their backstory, which was very nostalgic. The whole movie felt pretty nostalgic. That it's just as far as like the tone and the cinematography, just the other thing, it had like a nostalgic feel, I think, to the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Which I liked. And you can tell that they definitely spent money as far as the cast, not just on our two leads, who I thought were great. Tyler lately has been kind of frustrating me a little bit because keeps playing like kind of the diva,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just not my favorite. Like him playing like the cool guy the cool guy from high school and Never Been Kissed, or like the cool guy on the motorcycle, and like I don't know, I just don't like that. And this to me was a much more like humble, normal guy, and I like that much
Mhm.
better.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, it was kind of jarring when he came on in between in the commercial breaks. Benjamin Ayers was doing these little things, and he has Tyler come on, and Tyler's got like 10 bracelets and 5 rings and looking all cool. And I was like, whoa, it was a different character that he was playing. So I noticed that too.
Yeah. And I wasn't sure about their chemistry, but I thought that they were pretty good. And I liked the fact that he was smitten with her
Yes.
immediately.
Yes. I
He
wrote
was
that
like,
down.
whoa, who is this girl?
She walks in and he looks up like,
Yeah.
whoa. And I loved that.
That is such a swoony thing to do in these movies. I love
Hmm.
that. Like,
Hmm.
Yeah,
whoa.
I love any storyline where you've got the he falls first. I tend to do that in my books too because I love that, and
Hmm.
getting to see so often. I feel like as women, especially when we're younger, we spend a lot of time chasing men that probably we
Yeah.
should be spending time chasing. So when you're reading a book or you're watching a movie, like it, I think it really grabs you when it's the guy who falls first, and it's like, wait a second, there are guys out there like that in real
Yeah.
life, I bet, and maybe I'll find one of those.
When he falls first and falls hardest, it's
Hmm.
very romantic.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so her parents, they met they both had season tickets to the Chiefs. They met there, and so it's like just this huge part of their family. They run this like merch store, basically, Chiefs
Yeah, and
merch store.
I love that even though this was set in Kansas City, we still got that sort of small town feel we're used to in
Yeah,
Hallmark movies because you were
Yes.
sort of in this like suburb and it was a small town and you had this little main street where people were doing the Christmas tree lighting and the grandparents and the parents own a store on the same, they each own
yeah,
businesses on the same street. So
it's
you still
true.
got that small town feel, even though this was kind of a big city movie.
It
Yeah, that's
is
what I'm
because
saying. Like it had that nostalgic sepia toned, like
Hmm.
warm feel to it.
yeah, because Kansas City, like many metro areas, is kind of sprawling. It started out as this city there on the border between on the river, Missouri and Kansas. There's Kansas, and the Chiefs are in Kansas City, Missouri. Kansas City, Kansas is a bit smaller, but there are fans all around, right, on both sides of the state border. And then there are these kind of little towns, like Independence used to be a huge spot for people going west. They would go get all geared up with their wagons and stuff and then head west. But it's kind of a few miles away from the stadium. But so it's kind of now, absorbed as like a suburb, but it does still have that small town Missouri feel. So in
Mm,
in in parts of it, with those brick facades, on a main street and
yeah,
stuff. So kudos to them for scouting and finding a fun place like that.
yeah. Yeah, and then whenever they film on a lot, it always I think it adds to that nostalgic feel. I know some people it feels artificial, but I kind of like it kind of reminds me of old school Hollywood films, you know?
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
so
Singing in the Rain,
I
walking
like, yeah,
down. Yeah,
yeah. I
yeah.
like it when they film on lots. I really do. But he's not that festive, and he's also seems like he's new to Kansas City
Hmm.
Yeah.
because he hasn't ever had barbecue. He hasn't. He's getting kind of introduced to this whole world. So I don't think he's had this job long.
No, yeah. And I was curious how he got it because he said he grew up all over the world with parents in like the hotel or hospitality business.
Yeah,
So somehow he's got this marketing, ish background that got him to the point where he could be director of fan
yeah.
engagement for a major NFL team.
So we get Donna Kelsey in this one. This is her second cameo, I guess you'd say, of this Hallmark season, and she was she actually Norma for Norma and Nix? But
Yeah,
n-
no.
I wasn't sure. But anyway, she runs the barbecue place, and excuse me, and she runs the barbecue place, and that was fun. I enjoyed her.
Yeah. Yeah. And then after this, I watched Christmas on Call, the Philadelphia Eagles one, and my son was like, "How is Donna Kelsey in both these movies? Where does she know?" And I was
Yeah,
like, she's got to because she has her sons play for each team. So, and she's a
yeah,
huge fan. And it was they were kind of geeking out. They're
yeah.
like, "Oh, she's got the Kelsey jersey."
Yeah, and I
I
believe I believe when I was interviewing the network for my Forbes piece, they actually booked her to do Holiday Touchdown first, and then decided they should also use her for Christmas on Call.
Okay.
did you like Christmas on Call, Mary?
Yeah, I did. I
I
did.
really did. I
I
thought that
really,
was
yeah.
such a sweet
I
movie.
It was super sweet. Loved all the different characters. Really, yeah, it was really well done.
It was a lot better than I expected
Me too.
because it sounded kind of boring on paper.
I know, I think I saw you tweet or say something about it. And I was like, oh, okay, let me go
Yeah,
try it. And I liked it a
yeah,
lot.
yeah. So then he sees her. Like I said, he was immediately smitten, which I just loved. And they are they're like the whole block, like you're saying, the small town feel is gets the Christmas decorations, and so that's kind of the first thing they're doing. They're decorating the block. They also bond on the fact they're both only children, which I thought was nice
Hmm.
because I would imagine that would be a thing that if you were that would help you bond. Like
Yeah.
if I meet somebody who has from a big family, that's also a bond. You know that you have a shared experience.
Hmm.
So I thought that was kind of a nice thing about their relationship they connect with, and he moved all over the place, but he would always send a change of address postcard to the North Pole.
Yes,
That was
his
That was a
cute.
nice
tradition.
touch. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that
Yeah.
maybe they might come back to that, but then they didn't really.
No, they didn't. Though I had my little 8-year-old with us watching, and I was like tense, like, don't say anything that would ruin her, experience. And they're like, yep. And then the Santa threw out, and she was just like, of course Santa would help them. Like I was like, thank you for that. So,
And
And
it's one of the in-laws or whatever is like the super aggressive about her fruitcake,
oh, no,
like
just
chasing them
another,
down.
yeah, isn't she just another store owner or something on the
Was she
yeah,
block?
I
or was
think
she
so.
related?
Yeah. I don't know, but they were so funny. They were like, turn, walk away, walk away.
Well, I
And
love
that,
it because when he asks about the fruitcake, they're talking about, and they were like, "But we would never make you try a piece of it because they're making it out to be so bad." And then when they get upset with him later in the scene, they give him the whole fruitcake, and I
yes,
just thought I mean, I laughed out loud. I thought that was hysterical.
that was a
Yeah, there's
great
been a lot of
touch.
fruitcake this season on Hallmark
Oh
Channel.
no.
I don't like it. I
And it was a
No.
no.
reoccurring thing because later he's like, listen, I've got a fruitcake in my freezer I can bring. And then later the lady goes, oh, it's supposed to be served warm. Duh. How else do the like peppermint smelt or whatever? And they were like, what?
So they have this magic hat, and I think that it was smart of them to kind of tie this into just like an overall believing in something bigger
Hmm.
than yourself. The power of the the power of having faith in anything.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yeah.
it worked better. Like when I read this on paper, I was just kind of like, magic hat, like what? But it actually ended up being really sweet.
It did.
Yeah.
You
I would
know?
just say the fact that it's tied into a superstition, because that's such a big part of being a sports fan or being an athlete. I grew up playing sports, and that's how I ended up getting into sports writing. And the superstitions are real. And Mary, like you said, somebody who has overalls they haven't washed. I mean, like that superstition thing is real in
Oh
sports.
yeah.
So the idea that they really truly believe how important it is for somebody in their family to wear this hat on Christmas in order for the Chiefs to win. I mean,
Uh-huh.
that's relatable. There are certainly lots of people across the country who have some superstitious piece of clothing like that about their sports team.
Yeah, socks or whatever. And so while it does seem like when he's not believing them and he's like skeptical, and that's a deal breaker for them. And I'm like, girl, here's this handsome guy who's into you. Do not let him walk out of the door. But it's so much a part of her that he doesn't believe it. She's like, well, I don't know if this is a deal breaker,
Yeah.
So,
Well, I
yeah.
mean, it's also sort of like a judgment on their family too, in a way. The way you think I'm, do you think I'm stupid? Kind of I think a feeling. But yeah, he's the skeptic. He doesn't believe in the hat, and but
Hmm.
so then he gets assigned to cover this fan of the year contest, and you're right. I mean, it's an obvious conflict of interest, but nevertheless,
Here we are.
they're like, well, we deserve to win every year, fan of the year.
Their fan cave, I thought, I mean, my 17-year-old was so impressed. He was like, whoa. I mean, to be able to sell all these things, like, and because, there's stuff all over and there's stuff you can license to sell. And Hy-Vee is a big partner in Missouri to sell Chiefs gear. But yeah, the whole store, my boys were like, oh, I like that. I'd buy that.
Yeah. Well, so they have the best Chiefs themed gingerbread house.
Oh, yeah.
That was cute. That was a good
That was
idea.
And
fun.
his apron says, what does it say? Like Santa wants ribs.
Yeah.
And they say you can't let fear rob you of hope.
Oh, I
That
love
was
that line. I wrote that
That's a
down
nice
too.
one.
Really good line.
yeah. And then there's the light contest, and it's still going strong. And I liked when they even have the Chiefs lint rollers. Like
That was
even have
funny.
the
For the cat. Oh, that was a good touch.
yeah,
So many subtle little things in here that later I know
yeah,
I'm going to watch this again and be like, oh, I missed that. Oh, that's funny.
yeah.
Yeah.
This was an achievement for Julie. I just felt like her script was really good in this. And if people are fans of Julie, which why wouldn't you be? For our patron activity this month, she's going to be doing a Q&A for our patrons on the 11th of December. And so, a chance to ask about this movie, ask about all her projects, and just her process. It's gonna be super cool. And
Mm.
so, you should check out the Patreon, and you could be part any tier level gets to be part of these experiences. So that's going to be really cool. But she did an absolutely great job, and I am sure that this was a challenge to write. So many moving parts, so many elements. I'm sure that there were a lot of notes
Hmm.
Well,
from everybody involved, from the Chiefs, from Hallmark, from everybody, and the fact that it turned out as well as it did is I'm just very impressed with her in particular.
Well, on
Hmm.
top of all of that, she's a 49ers fan and they asked her to write a
Yeah.
Chiefs movie.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I talked to the
Yeah.
Hallmark folks about that a little bit. Samantha, that I talked to at Hallmark, is a Jets fan. And so one of the questions I asked when I was interviewing her was, how do you think this is going to do with fans of other NFL teams? Because people are obviously, die hard for their team. And I know from writing about sports teams, sometimes I get a lot of hate from other fan bases when I write about a team. But
Yes.
she felt like it would sort of rise above that because it was so authentic to the fan experience and that everybody could relate to that idea of being a diehard and of your sports fandom being part of your family. And now that I've seen the movie, I think she's right. Like, I'm not a Chiefs fan. In fact, I'm not a huge fan of any one NFL team, although I write about the NFL. I'm a much, much bigger college football fan. But it rings so true to me from the fan experience standpoint that it didn't matter to me what team it was. But props to Julie, because the 49ers, when she started writing this, had just lost to the Chiefs. So props to her for being able to write this movie.
Yeah, I wondered
Yeah.
if she'd want Joe Montana to be that cameo there in tossing the football through the, but because hey, he was a Chief at one point. So like,
Yeah.
but and I agree, because I wondered watching this, I'm like, oh, will other people be like, ugh, I don't like the gym, I'm not gonna watch this. But there's if you're listening and you're not still on the fence, there's so many more beautiful pieces to this movie. These
Yeah.
grandparents are just so darling and have so
Well,
much wisdom and everything. And
yeah, I mean, that's why I think it worked, is because it was really a family movie. And so it doesn't, again, it doesn't really matter what your tribe is. It just matters. Like, I was super into Survivor, they're into the Chiefs, like whatever it is that you find your tribe, then that's
yeah.
special. And I felt like it captured that, and it understood the assignment.
Mhm.
Hallmarkies, it's time to spruce up your Christmas season with holiday romances and dreamy happily ever afters. So pick up some festive fiction for yourself and gift another to the book lover in your life. Christmas at Sugar Plum Manor will transport you to the Nutcracker-inspired Edwardian era with a childhood friends to lovers romance. A hometown Christmas reunion at Second Chance Romance in the Christmas Catch will appeal to fans of the sports romance trope. The Christmas Tree Farm will delight with a breath of crisp, piney air at the family tree farm and a battle of wills with an ex-boyfriend. Make a holiday return to Prince Edward Island with a bit of matchmaking and meddling with mistletoe. Cozy up during the chilly weather and grab these books for 30% off and free shipping at bakerbookhouse.com. That's bakerbookhouse.com. There were cameos, and there are probably some that I didn't even realize were cameos, because I don't know. But like, they had different players, Trey Smith.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They had Trey Smith, they had McCole Hardman, who was standing there with
Yep.
Patrick Mahomes. They had, let's see, is it Trent
They
Smith?
had-
There's a corner.
They had Clyde Edwards-Helaire,
Oh, yeah.
George Karlaftis.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm glad you guys are on this.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to lie. I'm cheating too, because I had a list from Hallmark of who was going to make cameos.
my
So
boys, they're like,
I'm cheating.
Trey Smith, look at him. And
Yeah.
the Wes Brown cameo was fantastic, by the way.
That one surprised me because that was not on my list. My list was all of the Chiefs related people who were going to be in it. And so I was really surprised to see him, and he's one of my favorites. So I loved that.
He did a great job. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole scene in the empty stadium was really swoony. I liked that a lot.
Yeah.
And we got a kiss pretty early in the movie, which
Yeah.
it was nice, because this year has been, I feel like we're going back to 2014 with the near kisses. There's just been so many near kisses this year.
What's so funny, that was one of the things my husband noticed. He was like, they let them kiss in the middle of the movie. And I was like, I know, they do that every once in a while.
Every once in a while, they throw us a bone.
Thank you,
Just
Julie.
watching.
Yeah.
Although that was the immediate moment that he was like, all right, now he has to step back because it's a conflict of interest. I was like, yeah, that's not what's going to happen.
No. But I do like that he actually says, well, can we go on like an actual date after the kiss?
Yes.
Because sometimes they forget that in Hallmark, because like the two are working together, or whatever, so they forget not only do I love the date, but I love the awkward ask on a date.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was really good.
And we skipped right over the other thing you love, little subtle handhold by the fire.
Mhm.
Which a little wait what for me was the fact that this other fan's house was within walking distance of this fan. I mean, I've mentioned this. The greater Kansas City area is huge. Like the fact that they live close by each other. Well, we'll
Right.
just keep it. I'll just let that go.
Yeah. And so then they have the cupcakes. There's a whole thing, and then um, it turns out he's a pro. He's really good at gift wrapping
Hmm.
because there's like challenges, and uh, and then this is when the magic hat is taken. She loses the magic
Yeah.
hat.
She puts it down and it's gone.
Hmm.
Yeah.
There's also been this recipe from past generations that for eggnog that they
Mm-hmm.
could figure out what
The
the
word.
word was,
Yeah.
and it turns out it's saffron. So there's saffron in the eggnog.
Yeah. That was interesting. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
Grandma
Was it
Patty's recipe, I think. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, nice touch that kind of reminded us he had moved around the world. He knew that I think that was common in Greece or something like that.
Hmm.
Fun the moment when she beats him at the throwing contest. That was a
Yeah.
fun
That was pretty funny.
flirty
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah, once I beat my husband when we were either early dating or early married in a little knockout game of basketball, and I was like, "I'm so sorry. I know you're so much better at this than me." But then there's also that competitive side of me that was like, "Yes."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so we did, and then we got another kiss at the end of their date, which was fun.
Yes, a
So
second kiss, super
yeah, they're
cute.
building their chemistry between the two of them. I wasn't sure if they would have chemistry, but I thought they did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I did
I
too.
liked it. I liked them together. And then he calls it a silly hat. He's like, "Oh, are you gonna uh, not be with me just because this silly hat?"
Yeah, and
And
then
he says, "You have more
mm,
faith in that hat than me," which was like, "Oh,
I know, I know.
But
She was rude to him.
she was,
yeah,
but also he kind of acts like he has no idea how sports works or how sports fans are. And at some point, he reveals that living in Europe, he was a soccer fan over
Oh,
there,
yeah.
or footy as they as they call it. They are more superstitious than Americans are about anything in sports. So this idea that he thinks it's silly, I just can't believe that anyone working in sports would have trouble believing that this would be such a
Yeah.
big deal.
Yeah, if you're
yeah,
into her, Derek or slash Tyler, you've got to just take it and accept it and then like add to it. Like that's right,
Yeah.
sweetheart. And you just at this point.
Well,
But
and she's still learning because as soon as her, it's not like the rest of the family feels the same way. Like in some
oh
ways, she's like
yeah,
the biggest convert and
yeah.
believer of the hat. But as
Grandpa
soon as she
Paul, like,
tells, yeah, as
yeah,
soon as she tells her the everybody else, they're like, "Oh, it's just a tradition.
yeah.
It isn't more important than people," and so that kind of grounds her and reminds
Yeah.
her as
Yes.
though,
That's where this grandpa, because he's lived life and he knows, like, my children, the Chiefs lost their first game a couple weeks ago, and my 14-year-old was so sad. And those with perspective can say, listen, and Grandpa Paul tells her, look, if they lose, life goes on. And he tells
Mhm.
yeah,
her, the magic's not in the hat, it's what it represents. We're part of something bigger than ourselves. Like, let's step back, and he can do that. That's why I love that she has these grandparents in her life and her parents that are just solid, and they can give her this perspective and just kind of help guide her through these feelings and be like,
yeah,
okay, let's step back, acknowledging that she's feeling this way, but then being like, you know
yeah. Yeah, this movie reminded me a lot of both of the Fever Pitch movies, which I really enjoy both of them.
Mhm.
One is about a soccer team, sorry, a hardcore fan of soccer, and they're both based on this Nick Hornby novel, and he's a great writer. But the other one is it's Jimmy Fallon and Drew Barrymore, the remake about he's super into the Red Sox.
yeah.
Mhm.
And in that movie, he has a moment where he's very upset because the team lost, and he sees the players out like having dinner after
Hmm.
they get and at first he's kind of upset, like how could they be enjoying themselves, like they just lost, like why aren't they upset, and he realizes, he's like, they tried hard. They did the best they could. Like why shouldn't they have a nice dinner out? And
Hmm.
it's just a moment of realization for the character. And I felt like that was a kind of similar moment for this
Yeah.
character, for
Yeah.
her,
No, exactly.
you know, and and it's really cool too with Fever Pitch with the remake because the Red Sox hadn't won for like 50 years, like a
And then they beat
long
my
time.
Cardinals in the World Series.
And then just like so the year that they're filming the movie, they
Yeah.
have this incredible run and they win. And so they were able to work that into the plot of the movie and actually
Yeah.
have, and so I thought that was just like
Yeah.
really cool kismet.
Well, I remember watching on TV and seeing, is that Jimmy Fallon on Busch
Yeah.
Stadium, like on the field? And they
Yeah.
were filming that
Drew
scene. Like they
Barrymore.
flew them there and had them there on,
Yeah.
and danced around. And I was like, what
Yeah.
are they? So, yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's an underrated rom-com. It's
No,
quite
it's
good.
cute. I
They have
have it
nice
on
It's really
DVD.
good.
Yeah. So, and I love in the movie their first date, she ends up getting she's super sick and he comes in and he cleans up after her and helps her, and it's very endearing.
Oh, yeah. It's cute.
Very sweet. But so then they end up on the field and she confesses about the hat, that the hat is gone. And then they say the hat is all about faith and love.
Yeah.
And then you see that everybody in the whole stadium has hats.
Yeah. They pull them out
Which
from
is
under their seat.
really
Yeah.
fun.
I loved that. That was
That was
such a
really
nice touch.
cool.
And I think I screwed up earlier. I said that on Friday they gave hats to everybody at the Chiefs game. It was pennants, not hats. I remember thinking it should have been hats
It
because
should have been.
they did the hats in the movie, but I was wrong. It was pennants that they did on
okay,
Friday.
okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Becky she sent me a picture of the pennant.
Oh, fun.
But they are selling the hat. They've got the hat,
Yeah.
the scarf, and an ornament, I think, on the Hallmark site.
Yeah.
That's nice.
And I loved it. It was Jenna Bush Hager at midfield, another fun cameo.
Yeah, that was fun.
And then when Coach Andy Reid comes out, like, you guys gonna get off the field? I gotta play. My boys were like, it's Coach Reid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then we have after they confess their love and everything, and then they have the kiss and everyone cheers, and then they're all sitting together, and the grandpa never sold the grandma's seat. He always kept it. He knew someday the right person would come along for it. That was very sweet.
Oh, I got chills as you were saying it. I loved that part.
Super cute.
Very sweet. Very sweet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, what would you give this movie 1 to 5? What do you think, Savannah?
I think this one was a 5 for me. And some of that, maybe I'm such a big sports fan and sports is such a big part of my life, but I thought it would be tough for it to get a 5 from me because I'm really critical of how sports stories are done, but they did a really nice job with this, and having the buy-in from the Chiefs, obviously, really helped make this extra special versus what this would have been like if it had been a fake team. I think the movie would have felt really different.
Yep.
Yeah. Would you agree, Mary?
Completely agree. Full 5 stars. Can I go beyond that? I loved it. Loved it.
That's because you're a Chiefs fan.
Yeah. But all the other cute things too.
Yeah. I really give it like a 4.5, but definitely a high score.
There you go.
Yeah, it was very entertaining, and I'd watch it again. So that's always sort of my
super cute lines. Like I wrote down, he's wrapping the presents well, and they're like, "Whoa!" And he goes, "I can also fold a fitted sheet." And Grandpa
I
Paul
remember
goes,
that.
if he can make a restaurant grade ranch dressing, lock him in.
Yeah, that was
There's
good.
just cute lines all throughout, and so yeah, I would. Yeah, not just because I'm a Chiefs fan. I'm telling people you will want to watch it again because this writing is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's one that, because it is all about family. I think it's a movie that the whole family could enjoy.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Mine did.
Men and women.
Yeah, my husband down to my 8-year-old daughter and all my boys, we loved it together.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies.
Well, let's talk about the Finish line, and that's Finish, FINNISH, Finish line. And this is directed by Dustin Reichert and writers John Bellina, Talia Gonzalez, and Nicole Drespel. And it stars Kim Matula and Bo Murkoff. And Anya follows her father's footsteps in sled dog racing. In Finland, she enters his last race, but her lead dog is injured. Teaming with Cole's dog, she battles her father's rival, Monty, while learning to trust her new canine partner to win. So Savannah, you said that your husband was had his critiques about this. What did you think?
Well, so I thought it was good. It wasn't one of my favorites of the season, but I thought it was good. I love anything with a dog, and there were some adorable dogs in this movie, and I'm a super competitive person, so I like anything in this sort of like sports space. But my husband had just been to Finland. He has actually transitioned from sports writing to art writing and went over for an art press trip. And he said before the movie started, it was only going to be a realistic if they went and did a sauna, as the Finns call it. But they did. He had some nitpicks with that scene, but that for him, that had to be in the movie, and it was there. So I was glad when that scene came.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like they spent like that. I mean, if it felt pretty like there were some parts that were obviously green screen and some parts that were cheap, but I felt like wow, it felt pretty expensive to me for Hallmark.
Yeah.
The movie. And just the different set pieces, there's certain points she's hanging off a cliff and stuff like that. Like what?
I felt like I told my husband, I was like, I don't know if I remember a Hallmark like Christmas movie where you've got a life in danger at that level, like where I really for a minute was like, like that doesn't happen very often in Hallmark Christmas movies.
Yeah. I do feel like it felt more like a Winterfest movie than a Christmas movie, RIP Winterfest, but they tried a few lines here and there, and there was a little bit Christmas, but it was mostly, more of a winter movie than a Christmas movie, I'd say.
Yeah, I agree.
No, me too, because it felt like they'd sometimes throw in a line like, "Oh, and I love Christmas," and I was like, "Well,
yeah,
So if we were just going on Christmas feels, it's not there." But kudos to them for trying something different. My husband's like, "What is happening? Is this a dog?" We kept talking about Iron Will. We were like that old Disney movie about dog sledding.
I like
my
Iron
only
Will.
I know, remember that? Yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
My only beef with this is because I'm a reporter, I'm a journalist, I've been for a long time, is there's just boundaries you need to set if you're going to be writing about someone. And those were completely not even existent or not even there. And he also never had a notepad or a recorder. And she's like, and so is it just all in his head? That's amazing.
Right.
I have to write stuff down. And then she's like, this is off the record. I'm like, honey, the whole thing's off the record. He hasn't been taking any notes.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, my husband was screaming about the conflict of interest again in this. Well, we watched these movies back to back, and so he was like, here's another conflict of interest.
Yes.
It's true. Well, so it starts out, we find out that her parents have this legacy that they'd both done the race, and but they're both gone now. That her father was an immigrant from Finland, and he was kind of a legend in this race and in Finland. And she's wanted to get him the win that he never got is her dream. And I liked the side relationship a lot. I thought it was fun with her what was her name? The guy Lavi and Elisa. Elisa.
Yeah, the cousin.
The
Lavi.
cousin.
Yeah. They were goofy.
That was fun. I liked them. They were good. Lavi, he was funny. And
another conflict of interest. If he's her cousin and the whole vet for the whole race, like
Yeah.
people could be like, come on now. But still, he was funny. He had funny lines. He's teaching her all about Finland, and the and the friend is just like, I want that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
she arrives in Finland and she's like, I'm going to put off meeting the rest of the extended family except for Lavi till after the race. And but she's pretty excited. And they have like a meet cute with Bo's character. I guess his name's Cole, right?
Cole, yeah,
Yeah,
Cole.
Yeah.
Cole. So they have like a meet cute at the party and she can't eat the reindeer. She's like, no, I can't do that, which was funny. And they had quite a bit of Finnish culture in this, I thought. I mean, I don't know anything about that, so I can't speak to its accuracy, but it was fun.
Yeah, when
The
they were
different
going down that
parts.
buffet line and he was telling her what the different foods were, my husband was going, "Yeah, we tried that. Yeah, we tried that." Like he recognized,
Oh,
everything, although
Oh, that's
apparently his
good.
group did not try reindeer, but everything else that was on that buffet as they were saying it. And throughout the movie, like the different like foods and drinks and stuff that they mentioned were all things my husband had just experienced on his trip. So he
Yeah.
felt like all of that was really authentic.
It was
oh,
kind
very
of,
nice.
I thought it was funny because they're like, why are you such a Scrooge? And she says, you keep Christmas in your way, I'll keep it in mine, which is a direct quote from Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
and and then and she doesn't like Christmas because it reminds her of her parents. Is that right?
Yeah, what did she say? So this actually was a poignant line where she talked about her parents dying. She said she lost her mom fast and her dad slow, and both were awful. And I
Mm,
completely agree.
Yeah.
My best friend lost her mom super fast to cancer, while there's somebody in our family who's facing a really long battle with cancer, and both are awful. They're just
yeah,
Hmm.
awful. And
that's
so I
true.
think maybe that's kind of been something that's really hard for her, because here we come,
Hmm.
we're comparing both these movies, one where she's got all this family around her, and then this girl is like, I don't have them.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, she says something at one point about how much her parents loved Christmas and that now that they're gone, she sort of feels guilty that she gets to have more Christmases and they don't. And like
Yeah, oh yeah.
that hit home for me because my parents love Christmas. My birthday is 5 days before Christmas. So Christmas was like a big time of year in my family and still is. And I still have both of my parents. But every year I think about what it's going to be like to have Christmas without them because my husband's side of the family does not make a big deal out of Christmas. And so and we don't have kids. So I think it's different too. When you have kids, you're sort of, putting this Christmas together for kids. But like being someone who doesn't have kids and who spends my Christmases with my parents who are so into Christmas, like I really could relate to that about her.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And so he's a member of press. He was a former racer, and so he's like covering it. He wants the interviews, the big thing, and sort of like you're right, conflict of interest, but that's sort of his involvement. And she has this special himeli. It's like an ornament trinket that on her sled.
Mhm.
That was her dad's. And she says we lose together and we win together. And I liked her cousin that when she got hyped up on the
Yeah.
caffeine, that was funny.
That was funny.
I did ask my husband, I said, was the coffee over there like particularly strong? And he doesn't drink coffee, but I thought maybe somebody else in his group had
Yeah.
mentioned it. And he was like, yeah, I don't know. We didn't talk about that. So I was just curious if they have like super strong coffee or they just drink a lot of it. I don't know.
Yeah, or she did at least drink a lot, and so that was funny. I guess like you said, I liked Lavi and the cousin a lot. They were very
Yeah.
funny, and so then you've got this rival guy,
Monty
Monty,
White.
and he was fun. I mean, for that kind of
Oh,
role,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to have a role like that, just go all in.
yeah,
And he
Hmm.
did for
yeah.
sure.
So then her dog is injured by this rival, and
So
oh,
sad.
poor
Yeah.
doggy, his paw, and then so then they need a new dog, and she asks Santa for a dog, and so she gets Cole's dog. Cole offers his dog, and they normally don't allow you to change dogs, but because it was just a qualifier, then they allow the new
The
dog. But the
change.
problem is that the group isn't coordinated together and doesn't want to go,
Yeah.
and so that's a problem. So they're working through that, and so they have to help. It says when someone you trust signs off on someone new, it makes you feel safe. Because she is always talking about she hates the unknown.
Yeah.
And basically, that's kind of symbolic of what's happening with the dogs. They also hate the unknown.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Oh, I didn't think
Yeah.
about that parallel. Why did I notice that?
Yeah. So she's like, oh, this is, she has like a light bulb moment. And so they help the dogs to trust the new dog and get in there. And uh, they, uh, they said, what's the Finnish cure for insomnia? It's ice swimming and saunas. So we get to see that, which was
I-
fun.
This is where they lost my husband because he had just done this whole sauna experience in Finland, and he was like, you go in the sauna first, then you go get in the cold
Oh.
water.
The
He was like,
way.
and you don't just cut a hole in it like you're ice fishing, like you get in like the ocean, which I I don't know if they were in a part of Finland where they could do that. He was like, but you get in a bigger like open body of water, not just like down in a ice fishing hole. So he was like, he does cold baths all the time. So when she's getting in it, he's like, there's zero chance she could just go straight into it and stay in it like that. So he had a little problem that they weren't in the sauna before they got in because you're supposed to go, I guess,
Oh.
go back and forth. Like they went to a place and you do the sauna and then you go get in the ocean for a little bit and then you get back in the sauna and you go back in the ocean. And he was saying that it's like what people do after work. It's like happy hour there. There's a bar and like
Wow.
where he went, it wasn't even really tourists. It was mostly locals. And like, this is how they socialize after work as they go to the sauna. So he had some bones to pick with that scene. But if you didn't
Yeah.
know all that, I thought it worked.
I've never done a
Okay.
sauna. I've never done either of them. I mean, I've been in some cold water, but I've never done an ice dip before.
No.
I don't think I would do well
No.
in either part.
My husband's
Yeah,
from
no.
Wisconsin. I'm from Atlanta originally. So I say he's like from hardier stock than I am. So he
Yeah.
can do it. And he thinks there's all these like medicinal benefits, but I'm not willing to try.
Yeah, no,
I
I've
think,
heard
No.
that it is good for your muscles and things like that,
yeah.
but
Yeah. Just this Thanksgiving weekend, we were at a rental where the main pool was not heated. And so my family was not me. They were doing cold plunge and then hot tub and cold plunge and hot tub. And I was like, I hope it helps your bodies. I'm not even trying it. And to me, as a journalist again, I would never be in a swimsuit with somebody I was interviewing. This is awkward, super awkward. But
that's
maybe
probably a
like
good plan.
yeah, I know. Just that's a boundary I've set. That's a rule of my own professional life. But maybe it's one where, like you were saying, Savannah, that this is something anybody's doing, together over there, and it's not a big deal to be, partly
Yeah.
unclothed around other
Yeah, although I feel like we don't get a lot of bare-chested men in Hallmark's movies in general. That was one thing
Yeah.
I said to my husband when we were watching it was I can't remember the last time I was watching one where we got a guy with his shirt off, especially like more than just a second. It's not like he was pulling off one shirt to put on another. Like we were sitting around looking at him with his shirt off for like a while in that scene,
While.
and I
True.
don't feel like that happens a lot.
And I
That's
feel like he
true.
was pretty swoony in this movie. I think it might be the best we've seen from Bo of his couple different Hallmark movies he's done. I think this is probably my favorite. I thought he was pretty
because
good.
he did the one where he was like diving for a ring
Yeah.
or something.
Mhm.
But I think he was in a wetsuit most of the time. Or no, maybe he was in some suit. Anyway, yeah, he was
Yeah.
super nice. He was like that all shucksy kind of feel, which I think is always endearing. And it seemed like he was into her also. Every girl wants that for sure. And
And he was on the that show Ride.
Oh, that's
Oh,
right.
that's right.
Yeah.
So it's fun to see him in this. And then there was some nice moments with them like making the pastries with the jam.
that was fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Lavi's like, sometimes in Finland it is okay to sit in silence in the room. The others were in the room because she keeps trying to fill the space. I feel that, girl. I do that all the time.
Like Hallmark is challenging me this season with all these Scandinavian war stories. Like I'm
Yeah.
gonna be saying all these hard words. It's because I last night we covered the Christmas Quest, which was all the Icelandic words, and it's like there's other ones too. But yeah, it's Jolu Tortu, something like that. And it looked they looked good, and I found a recipe on online, and it looked the Christmas stars basically.
Okay.
Yeah, they looked tasty.
Yeah.
And so we find out that he's working on a book, and he says it's okay to sit in silence in Finland,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
nice. Um, and he says part of my father's life had to end so that it could begin. And she's always kind of presented it, meaning that like the racing thing had to end in order for him to come to the States and start this new life with her, with being with a family. And my racing fixes that. And basically, like, kind of the lesson she learns, not only to have faith in the unknown, she learns not only to have faith in the unknown, but also that it wasn't that it was a sacrifice that he was happy to make. That she needs to let go of that guilt, that
Yeah.
she comes to understand her parents in a new way,
Yeah.
which is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like she felt like she was like the consolation prize that he wasn't
Yeah.
able to race anymore, and then he moved to the States and had a family instead. And I think it's the aunt Lavi's mom, who later tells her, no, that you weren't the consolation prize.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Right.
love that message of family, because this message that young women are getting, that like, no, you have to do a career all in. And it's like, no, a family is a beautiful thing. And it was for her parents, that they had
Yeah.
her. So
Yeah. I really liked this scene where Lisa asks Lavi on the date to the frozen waterfall.
Mhm.
And at first
Yeah.
he says no. I mean, I can't think of any other Hallmark movies where the
The
female
guy,
character
yeah.
has asked a male character out on a date like that.
No,
Yeah.
and my
And
husband was like, "What is wrong with him? She's way better looking than he
yeah,
is. How dare he say no?"
yeah,
He was not believing it.
I know, same with mine. He was like, what, but then later, what does he say? He's like, by the tree. He's like, I couldn't believe that you would go for someone like me.
yeah. It
I
was
panicked.
cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
So they go
like,
to the ice bar and they go on sled rides and things like that, and so that was fun. And you get to see a little bit of Finland, and there's a big storm coming, and he gives her his book to read. So so there's the kind of that getting to know each other. And she says, I don't know what a win means for Anya. I know what you think it means for your dad, but what does it mean for you? So that was nice. And she says, I hate having these Christmases, but they don't have them.
oh
They
yeah, yeah, that's true.
and we get a pretty like big kiss in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was pretty good.
It was a good kiss. My DVR did a little like thing right in that moment, and I was like,
Oh no.
so I
Because
don't know,
she
like,
finds the almond in the pudding,
hmm
and he's like, "Ooh,
that's, yeah, right away too. And remember, there was another movie a couple of years ago with that beautiful gal who then goes to the cabin with the dad of the daughter because she was afraid to get the almond. She didn't want to,
Yeah.
like, and in that movie, it felt like they were saying, if you get the almond, you get love. But he was
Right.
saying in this one, what is that? You just get good luck for the year, or is it
That's
something
what
like
he
that?
said was good luck for the year. But you're right. I thought I remembered from the other movie that it meant you were gonna
Fall
find
in
love,
love,
or
or
yeah,
maybe it is what you say it is, like, as you're with your group or something, or something around the good fortune.
yeah,
But I really liked, so she can't find the booties, the thing, and so she's like, I'm gonna lose. It's gonna be horrible. And she's like, and I think it was Elise who said something. Oh, you're just thinking about having kiss
Kissing
Cole, and
Cole.
she's like, I'm not thinking about that at all. And he's like, she says, no offense taken.
He's like, I'm right here.
That was
Yeah.
funny. I liked that. Yeah, if I don't win, I'll be a loser with that if I don't win, I will be a loser with no family.
Oh
I
yeah.
know. I thought that was
Oh,
so harsh because
yeah.
obviously, these are all people who would invite her in and who would, they are her family.
But it
They're
made
the,
for a nice moment because
I
then they were like, "We're your
know.
family," and so then she apologizes, and it was a sweet moment. And so then there's something happens with Monty's sled with his dogs. I was a little bit confused of what was going on, but anyway, and then she ends up hanging from this cliff because she
Yeah,
helps him. Like,
bizarre.
whoa.
And
And
the
when she was
leader,
doing it, I was like, there's got to be a better way than you hanging on the edge of this cliff, with this ice pick trying to get this sled out like that. There's no way that this is the best you could do in this
yeah,
situation.
I was like, wow, that's
yeah,
unexpected.
it was a bit much. And also, if they were only separated by like 20 seconds, like you are way behind at this point, and just yeah, you're out of the race. But she
Yeah,
Yeah.
wasn't.
but she ends up winning somehow.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's where you get the you were no consolation prize. You were the win.
yeah,
It was
Hmm.
very sweet.
yeah. That was super sweet.
And then I also liked the line, you can't get the almond unless you eat the porridge.
Yeah,
That was pretty good.
yeah, that was good.
And so then Lavi says that he likes Elise, which was cute.
That was cute. And then they kiss big time at the tree.
Yeah. And then we get this, Cole is kind of sulking a little bit. He's sort of brooding on her,
He's
saying
talking
kissing
to
him was no
himself like
big deal.
he's like, listen, she said it's no big deal, but come on now. Like he's giving himself like this pep talk.
Yeah. I'm finally being the lead dog.
Oh, that was so funny. I like grabbed my husband's arm. I'm like, no way, he did not just say that.
But I liked that his character was like, he's almost like a little awkward at times. He's not always so
Yeah.
sure of himself. Like it's not the
It's
like
like a little teddy
macho
bear.
alpha male. Yeah, I liked that he was in books we call them the cinnamon roll hero.
Mhm.
And I liked that she was the like more assertive, more
Yeah.
confident one, and he was a little more like laid back and a little more unsure. I thought that was a good
Mhm.
dynamic change.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And she says, I have no plan and I really like you. So there we go. So she's learning to embrace the unknown.
yeah,
And so that was good. I enjoyed this one. It felt fresh. It was something nice for considering these 8 movies. I think it felt like something different than the other 8. And this and Christmas Quest, are the most similar, but I liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun. So I would probably give this one like 3.5 crowns. What about you, Savannah?
Yeah, that's where I was going to go to, is 3.5. It's not one I see myself watching again. I
Yeah,
enjoyed it. I'm glad I watched it. It's not like it was a waste of my time. It was cute enough, but I don't think
yeah,
it's going to be one of my like go-tos to rewatch.
I can see that. What about
yeah.
you, Mary? What would you give it?
Exact same. I'm 3.5. I mean, 3.75. But then I think,
Mm,
I don't know if I'd watch it again. It was fun. It was different. And I enjoyed myself for sure. So yeah, I'm around there too.
yeah. Well, let us know what you think of these 2 movies. And we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments or on Twitter. And Savannah, where can people find you and all of your upcoming books and everything you have going on?
Yeah, my website is just savannahcarlisle.com. And then I'm on pretty much all the socials, including I just embraced Blue Sky recently. So I'm pretty much everywhere now, I think. And
Oh,
it's all at Savvy Carlisle with 2 V's.
great. And Mary, where can people follow you?
Yeah, so I'm on look for Mary Richards Reports or Reporter Mary Richards on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews all over social media and iTunes and YouTube and everywhere. So make sure to check that out. And make sure you're following the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod, Hallmarkies Podcast, all over social media. And if you're listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really, really helps us a lot. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our patron group where you get to have experiences like this Q&A coming up with Julie Sherman Wolf. And so we try to make it really worth your while to become a patron. So check that out. And we have the merch store where we have some new holiday movie themed designs at the merch store. We've got Home Alone, we've got Die Hard, we've got Christmas Story, It's a Wonderful Life, lots of great movie inspired designs. So check that out. We'd sure appreciate it. And thanks to both of you. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye, everyone. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.